So today we are talking about rooting out racism both on football pitch, in our society, and on social media. So we are doing part one, standing against racism. Gossip Talk Show, we are standing against racism. So racism can be, I know some people are actually focusing on Black people. There are some people, white people, who are facing racism as well. So basically, our aim is to raise awareness of the challenges that our societies face uh, due to discrimination. And basically, we want to basically spread. We want to encourage positive change in our society, and in the football pitch, in everywhere. Racism is everywhere, so we'll be focusing in every areas. I know some people will be focusing on England game. So over to you, Shireen. Please introduce yourself to our audience.
Fabulous. Hello. Thank you, Nomsa. I think this is such a valuable topic today, and really it's so high in the news, so it is so important. So yeah, hello everybody. Yeah, have you ever felt an outsider, that you don't belong? Interesting, we're talking about racism, and you're disconnected from friends, family, and people, or are you forgetful? You keep struggling with attention, memory, or focus, feeling spaced or physically sort of numb. You might be suffering from childhood trauma. And I'm Sharon Lovegrove, and I help women that have imposter syndrome, who basically are stressed, overwhelmed, and depleted because they find it really hard to show up because they're afraid they'll be seen not to be perfect. And actually, underneath all of this, all kinds of issues that we experience is normally to do with childhood trauma. So that's what I do. I help them unlock the trauma and shift that energetic strain so that they can begin to stand sovereign in their space and show up fully as themselves. So yeah. So yes, maybe I'll pass it on to Nadia quickly first. Let Nadia introduce herself.
Hi everyone, hi again. My name is Nadia Dubiel. I am body intelligence coach and I have Superhuman Academy. So I help people basically to reconnect with ourselves, and I think all of these issues and problems that we're facing in our society currently is due because we are really prone to conditioning, and we put energy and attention onto the outside world, and we forget basically who we are and how incredibly amazing and powerful and unique every single one of us is. So basically I help people how to reconnect with ourselves so we don't get affected by all these dramas that's happening around us, and we really are able to create what we truly want, basically. So yeah, that's me. Thank you. And Kamal, tell us about yourself.
Thank you very much, Nadia and Shireen. Welcome everybody watching, or who is going to be watching in the future. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you may be. Do you perhaps feel sometimes being stuck in that hamster wheel, always running, always grinding, with no sense of direction, with a lack of fulfillment and belonging in your life? Do you understand what this life and what it means to you? Some people may call it raison d'être, others call it ikigai. I call it purpose, or with an S, purposes. On average, 90% of people live their lives not questioning their existence, not delving deeper into their life without any growth. They just live life as it is. And those who do sometimes are filled with that feeling of being lost and not knowing where to go next or what to do in their life. My name is Kamal Amer. I'm an NLP trainer, master practitioner, hypnotherapist, and a life purpose specialist. Now, with a combination of ancient Egyptian wisdom and neurolinguistic programming, I help you create a foundation to a life of harmony, balance, and purpose. Over to you, Nomsa.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Kamal. So our topic today, basically, I've already said that is rooting out both on the football pitch and our society, and is racism basically on social media. There are so many people, teenagers, who have lost their lives through the racism through social media. You have celebrities who have taken their lives basically because they couldn't cope with the abuse on social media, and the football players as well. What happened with Marcus on our England team in Italy? And I think basically we have to raise awareness of what is going on, whether you're black or white. We are all still human beings. We are the same. So our color does not define who we are. So I'm gonna give it over to Shireen to go first and hear your point of view regarding this.
Thank you, Nomsa. Yeah, it's a really challenging topic, this, and one that's going to really challenge who we are and how we think, because I think that there are a lot of us, and maybe what came up for me this week was really looking at that hidden aspect of racism. We're seeing it as an overt racism when we start to see it going on in the newspaper. But a lot of us have thought, oh, we're doing things to counteract racism, but we're not. We're actually not doing it enough, and maybe we're not looking at it and what we really need to be doing to actually do that. And what do we as an individual need to be doing to have a look, to check in that we are not being inadvertently racist, even though we don't think we are. And this is really interesting. Because I think very often we deny that we are racist by being complicit in actions. And why I say that is that something came up for me today. I looked at a post. I answered the post, and it was interesting. I got into this discussion in the post, and part of the post was the person said, "This is England." And although there was all the stuff and obviously honoring exactly what happened with the three young men that were on the England team, but I kind of also saw this is England, and I asked, how does this help the divide? How does this divide between us? And basically she said, well, that's not the purpose of the post. And I thought, that's interesting. And I kind of waited, and I thought, well, I can respond to this, and I did respond, but very short. And then I came back, and she carried on with her response. And I thought, something's here that I need to learn, something that I need to look a little deeper, because something's not sitting. And, if I'm trying to defend something, what am I defending? What am I really defending? And what I realized was, oh my goodness, by first of all, not really sitting and feeling deeply inside as though these three men are mine, of my race, of me, then I am being complicit by not actually standing up and fighting for them. Yeah. And that was when I kind of woke up to this idea, oh my goodness, even though I don't believe that I might be racist, there are these stereotypical behaviors that are there that we have to be very careful that we have, and we need to look and see and deal with those. Because actually basically Sutherland chose the three best men. He chose the best men that were needed. It should never have been an issue. And this is what happened. So it shows that even though people think they may not be racist, they are. And even though I had written, in LinkedIn about this topic, basically people didn't even argue about what I had put in there. And I thought, oh my goodness, this is how complicity happens. People just read something and they just ignore it. And that's it. And that was where I thought, yeah, this is where we need to start. This is where we need to start. We need to be able to just really start to look at it. That if I felt like, hey, this is England, and I felt that affront, I need to feel the same feeling for those young men. I need to have that exact same feeling. And it really brought home that idea that we're not one until we feel the same pain. Yeah.
I like when you're talking about that pain, because so I'm a very multicultural child, right? My family comes from everywhere, all around the world, and we've lived with people with all races and different religions in our family. And so that understanding of racism only hit me very much in my 30s when I came to Norway. I had friends from all over for the fun reason that all my friends were Africans in France. All my friends in Egypt are Nubians or from south of Egypt, right? And as white as I may be, I still connect a little bit more with my African roots, right? Yeah. The interesting thing is that I didn't understand it to that perspective until I really saw it myself. So I experienced racism here in Norway when I came because I was a foreigner, because I had a foreign name, more or less an Arabic name, because I didn't have experience in Norway, because I was not part of the Norwegian culture. So you're absolutely right. You know, understanding that feeling is it's almost like an outside feeling that you try to be empathetic about, but you don't really understand how to be empathetic towards it because you've never felt it, right? Even though I've always been on the side of my African friends, even though I've always stood by them and said, no, this is not right, and this is no, and this is that, and whatever it may be, it still doesn't hit home like you're talking about, unless you really see it and you really delve deep into, oh, what is this? This is, forget about racism. This is incorrect to say. This is not decent to say. This is not a decent behavior. Now, we're talking on a deeper level. Racism is apparent. Now, we're talking about decency, about upbringing, about how people, like Nadia was saying, are conditioned into thinking. And it doesn't only exist, like Nomsa was saying, in between African or African Americans or colored people. It exists between religions and between people of different sects. See what is happening, for instance, in Israel, right? They're talking about anti-Semitism, but what are the Israelites doing to the Palestinians? They're eradicating them. They're taking land that is not theirs. They're killing innocent children, right? Of course, a genocide part, but I'm talking about the racism where they're living apartheid over there as it was in South Africa. The same thing is happening over there in Palestine. And it's happening in France now with the French team as well. It happened when France lost to the penalties, right? The amount of messages that came onto the players that lost the penalties, right? The interesting part in some countries is that when the foreigners win, yes, they are from our country. Yes, they have done this for us. Look at our people. But when they do a mistake or they lose, oh, it's because they're foreigners. Oh, they're not from this land. Oh, this and all that. Now, that is pure racism. And I'm just going to say hi to Charles. He is a fellow coach and a friend of mine. Thank you for watching us. So yeah, that's my opinion, at least for the starting. Nadia.
Yes, I'm so happy that I'm part of this conversation, because it's like I didn't know what was happening, because of course I watched the match because it was a big, amazing event in England, and I watched the penalties, and I didn't notice anything. And on the next day, Nomsa mentioned about racism in football. I was like, I still didn't realize what was happening until yesterday I spoke to my friend, and she explained to me that the footballers that missed the penalty were basically different nationality, different roots. They had different roots, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so crazy. So that's when I realized that I was basically shocked because, you know, for me as an individual, I never look at people like different races, different colors. I obviously we judge people in our own way, but I was lucky enough basically to grow up in a very, very sheltered place where, you know, I grew up in the forest, and I never experienced that there is racism, there are bad people and things like that. So I had really strong beliefs that when I look at someone, when I look at the person, it's just a person, it's just individual. And like look and seeing what is happening, it's so heartbreaking. It's really tears us as humanity, because all these agendas and ideas and dogmas basically that people assigned to the boxes that we put ourselves and other people to, it's such a massive divide between us, and they really stop us from becoming powerful creators and who we truly are. And when we really realize, because when I came to London, I was a victim of racism as well, of course, so I experienced that in my life, so it's not like some that's foreign for me. But I always had the deep belief that if you do not believe in something, if you don't believe in some kind of agenda, if you don't believe in stories, basically stories that are happening around you, basically you can kind of protect yourself from that. And because we create our reality through the attachments that we have. And I understand that, you know, racism has been going on since that's since the humanity. And racism, every single race in humanity of the world, I'm very interested in history, and I did research. Every single race in the world was enslaved before. Every single color, every single race was enslaved in the past, and it keeps happening. In today's world, we have about 47 million slaves, and there is all sorts of people being forced into things that they don't like. These problems will be always existent because that's just the world we live in. It's in the consciousness, and so the best way we can do to protect from it is to not to give it any power, don't to give it any attention, basically, and just go within and focus on ourselves, and do all these reflections and realizations that Shireen was talking about, because it is part of our reality, it is of our world, it is in collective consciousness. So we cannot completely avoid it, but if we don't have that attachment to it, big strong emotional attachment to it, is not going to affect us as strong. And I really hope that this event for this one footballer, he's 19 years old, and he had so much pressure on him put, and I just really hope and wish him that this situation will really put him on a beautiful path of self-empowerment. And because, you know, we always have a choice, we can always react and respond and let what's happening to us, even though this is massive, make us grow and make us stronger, or let us destroy us. We always have that choice, and we all going through horrible experiences sometimes, but we always have that choice, the way we respond to the situation. So yeah, this is horrible, because, you know, there is a lot of people out there that are horrible, disgusting people, and we should never ever give them power, and we should not allow them to destroy us and destroy how we feel. So yeah, that's my take on that at the beginning, at least. So yeah, Nomsa, what's
Thank you so much, Nadia. For me, basically, if someone basically behave towards me, being racist towards me, I just look at them as they are messed up, because I did a DNA test. I wanted to share the screen with my DNA test, but I can't. My family, I just wanted to know a few months ago where my family come from. I thought my family were coming from originally South Africans, and they're not. South Africa basically is just there as they moved there. I have ancestors in Hamburg, Berlin, Netherlands, Germany, Belgium, Czech Republic, Austria, Switzerland, Milan, France, Paris. And in Africa is Nigeria, which is the country that I have never thought that my family were from, in Kenya, and Sierra Leone, and Southern Africa. And there's no way, if I hadn't done the DNA test, I would actually known that my family are everywhere. I have family everywhere. And Martin was like, we are cousins, basically. Basically, we have ancestors. They have ancestors everywhere as well. We have ancestors everywhere. So what happened with these guys, and I know there are some parents who have lost their children through racism. I think Unisa as well lost his son through his son was killed. Was it 2 years ago? I can't remember which year, or last year, I can't remember. And he's one of the speakers that I see and watch him every day. But people experience pain every single day. But how do we stop this pain? The social media, because the pain is there. If I actually post a silly post now on social media, and if I put matchmaking, love, dating, there are some keywords that I put. If you put those keywords, even dating, sometimes they can block your posts. But why are they not blocking social media, letting entertaining racial comments? Why are people are reading them? Because if social media was to protect, so why if I post something silly, like the keywords, I get blocked. But it's somebody else, if they want to do racial with somebody, but nothing is being done about it. So I think that is the point, that to raise awareness that football team was a football team, like you were saying, Shireen. You put your feelings in it. They've lost. England lost. That means you've lost. It doesn't mean you have to go. You don't have the right to go and attack somebody else. It's all about somebody else. There's two teams that are on the pitch. Somebody has to be a loser. That's how we look at it. But England would have lost. Italy would have lost. But then we don't have the right to go and abuse the players. We don't have the right, or when we see somebody wearing something on social media, or they are losing weight, or they are doing this, we don't have a right to actually attack them. So I think the awareness is social media. They need to do something about it. Blocking the racial comments. People shouldn't have to go through that. If social media is for everybody else, people shouldn't have to go through that pain. If football is for everybody else, we pay to go and watch football. We don't pay to go and abuse people. So they shouldn't be, it should be zero tolerance. Like NHS, they have zero tolerance of the staff being abused. If you abuse their staff, you cannot enter the hospital. Even if you are ill, they chuck you out. You go and die. So I think the football basically association, they should have zero tolerance of people coming in and thinking that they have the right. But some people get drunk anywhere. They abuse people because of the substance, or some people take drugs when they are in there. They can do anything. Over to you, Kamal. You know I'm gonna keep talking.
No, I was going to interrupt you and say, look, yes, the managerial, sorry, I'm completely lost here. The football association, the rugby association, all of these sports association, yes, they should get together and completely ban racism and ban players that are participating in racism, and ban people that are spectators that are part of that. I agree with you totally. However, that's not going to happen. We are living in a system of oppression. How to get control is based on oppression, whether it's by skin color, whether it's by controlling the media. Oppression is there. When media, if the information that is sent out on media is for the benefit of these outlets, the social media or even news, then it will not be blocked. If it is against it, then it will be blocked. And it has constantly happened. Look at the States, how it's been happening for the past years when it comes to African Americans living there, how they're being oppressed, how they're being handled differently, how even in court they're being handled differently for same cases. People are being tried for the same reasons, but very differently, with different amounts of serving time and punishments. This is a system of oppression in most of the governments around the world. Very few governments care and understand about racism and that oppression. Now, if we want to talk about something, what we can do, we as coaches, as speakers, must say what we feel like saying. We must say what we feel is right. It is not right for us to stand still and not comment on these rubbish stuff that is being commented on media. It is not right from our perspective as people that want to help others to stand there idle, not expressing ourselves. These are the boundaries that we set and that we help people put for themselves. So how can we deny ourselves to be stepped on the boundaries that we do not accept? That is to everybody around, whatever sort of oppression it is. We all should stand against that oppression, no matter what the government, no matter who the person is, right? Fair is fair, right is right. There is no in between. Now, when we talk about racism in sports, the players, they have the rules because they are standing with each other. They're a team. They understand that with each other differently. It's almost like growing up together. The spectators, however, they express themselves because they haven't been taught any better. Now that falls under the hand of the players to express themselves, like a lot of players are expressing against racism, against discrimination, for equality and equity, and not equality, but equity. Big difference. So that people learn more, and that is our job. It's part of what we do, to help others learn more about themselves, about what is correct, what is decent. There are coaches of etiquette and decency. There are teachers that teach you how to behave, how to respect one another, even in opinions that differ. I differ with opinions with Nadia, with you, sometimes with Shireen, very rarely with you, Shireen. But I do differ with opinions. That doesn't mean I have to be rude. That doesn't mean I disrespect your opinion. I can disagree on your opinion, but I can also accept it as being your opinion. Now, the people that are expressing themselves and saying that these players are not from this country, for instance, we're judging them as well, saying they are racist. But we don't, yes, it's a terrible thing. But we don't understand where they are coming from. We don't know how they are thinking. We don't know how they were brought up. We don't know how they were conditioned to think that way. And that is not their fault. For not everybody. I'm not making an excuse for anybody. I'm just saying, if we put ourselves in a perspective that, wait a second, why is that person thinking like that? Understanding them, even though for me there is no understanding when it comes to racism. I have zero tolerance for it. It's still a good point to understand why people are saying what they're saying. And it comes from the conditioning that Nadia was talking about. It comes from people being ignorant, like Shireen was saying. It comes from being raised up in a society that tells you you are different. I can't remember, there was a French anthropologist quite a few years ago. he proved by proof that we are actually all black. Our root of color, we are black. We're not yellow, we're not white, we're not butter like the French, they call beurre for the Arabs. We're not whatever, we're not purple, pink, no. Our original skin color is black. So I stand strongly against whatever is happening from these associations, and a lot of them, unfortunately, do not understand what it takes to protect people and help others. And yeah, I'm going to stop now because I'm getting it. Yeah, Shireen, go ahead.
Yeah, I think everything that you've said there is so very important. And I think that, you know, I'm also very conscious here. We've got Nomsa is the only actual black person that's sitting here as such. And so that's really something that's really important also to address. But I think what I want to honor one thing is that when there are very few, never has somebody ever scrubbed their skin in order to be another color if they're white. But we know that in different cultures, people like in India and, you know, in Africa, they've scrubbed, you know, what's I'm just a Michael Jackson. He was one of them, putting all stuff on to be more white. And so it means that somewhere underneath, there's a belief of a culture that being white is more superior. And that's where the problem is. Racism comes from the idea that we are better than, all right? And that's when it all comes down, you know, and even though we don't like this, this is where it comes from. And the moment we think we're better than, we are going to create separation. We're going to create the divide. It doesn't matter what it is, we're going to create it. And I think that we have to, you know, I remember sort of when I was in school, I was about, 18? And I remember this program was very, very racist. And it was Archie Bunker in a particular show. But one of the things that a black doctor said to him is, you know, underneath your skin, your blood is red. Isn't it red in all the cultures? So what if we took the skin away? We would not know who we are. And that was a really profound moment in my life in really going, oh my God, that is so true. That is so true. Now, all of us have experienced some form of multiculturalism in the sense of where we are. When I came to England, because I was South African, boy, oh boy, did I have a hard time, because at that time it was still white South Africa, and you had this big, and everybody really kind of almost thought I was, you know, dog's dinner. And it took quite a lot of defending, but I also realized that I never felt what black people felt because I'd never experienced it. I'd never experienced growing up in a culture where I was considered less. Yeah. Even if I came here, I still wasn't considered less than people that were black. So I am really grateful that this event happened because it's now meaning we're going to see what we thought was helping isn't. And we have to really come back to looking at how do we help people learn deep inside, find their own biases so that they can surmount this, they can change from this. Because as you said, oppression doesn't take away those people that believe they're superior. Yeah, it does not take it away. They have to have an experience where they actually can get to feel what somebody else is feeling. So they perhaps have to really experience what it's like to be discriminated upon. And that might mean we have to go and do some of the experiments that were done in the States by a very amazing woman who actually did an experiment with showing people between blue and brown eyes. And, you know, a lot of the kids that experienced that really got to feel what racism was because of something that they could not do anything about. You can't change the color of your eyes. Yeah. And most of the world has got brown eyes, which is ironic. So the blue-eyed people are actually the people that are actually the recessives. So that's really interesting just in that fact. But what was really interesting is that because there was a particular conditioning, the children that didn't change were the children that felt they were superior. even more superior. So I think there's something about really looking inside and finding out where do we think that we are better than. And we need to really focus on that and be aware of how we choose. As you said, as coaches, we need to be able to talk up, stand up in the same way that you would as a collective. And in my sense, stand up, when I kind of stood up for England, actually I need to stand up for individuals in the same way. I need to say, they are me, and therefore I stand up for thee, and this is really what's so very important. And until we can do that, so we have to start going without the filter. Everybody doesn't have a skin color. And then they just realize everyone has exactly the same blood color.
It was, her name was Jane Elliott, right? The lady
yes, Jane Elliott, yes.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. Amazing woman. Very insightful. Right, I'm kind of done there for a minute, but I'm sure I'll come back to the topic.
This conversation actually is going the different way that they anticipated, which is very interesting. And I really love what I just want to come back to what Nomsa said at the beginning, that, and actually one of the comments that Charles mentioned, that division is profitable for many, and that's it. Media is owned by someone, and if all of these horrible races, all of this horrible stuff, dogmas are allowed for a reason. When it comes to conspiracies, for example, now it's loud about vaccination. There's a lot of people that are against it, but every single thing is removed from social media because it doesn't talking against vaccination doesn't destroys basically pharma and profits for these people, but something that is that it doesn't, even though it has much more detrimental effects on people, on our psyche, on our mentality. It's really hurtful. It is allowed because it's there for a reason, basically, and we really have to be aware that all of this stuff that is being allowed basically to happen to people is for a reason, and it's not personal. Basically, it's just part of a bigger plan to divide us as humans, so we don't feel empowered, so we don't feel like we are one, so we don't support each other, so we don't serve each other, so we see each other completely different. This awareness is very important, because the more power we give to this negative, horrible experiences and agendas, the more they're gonna win, the more they're gonna happen, the more they're gonna divide us, and the more they're going to cause pain and suffering in other people. I just basically just don't know what else to say about it, but this is just complete, utter rubbish, basically, in people. And of course, there are people who believe that, who become victims, the oppressors, people that become victims of this racism agendas, and they cause and they hurt other people through their comments and behaviors. Like, yes, Kamal, you said that they're not responsible, it's not their fault, because it's of the conditioning. But they also are responsible for their own reality and how they react and what they do. And these people are not leaders. Basically, they just mob the people that are manipulated, and they don't really have their own opinion. They completely lost touch within themselves, and through their dysfunctional behaviors, they hurt other people. And if the world knew that this is dysfunctional, is bad, is wrong, it would not affect so many, especially young people, teenagers. Like my friend was telling me that what is happening now, because of this idiotism, that people reacted in such a horrible and atrocious way of judging other in that sense. It's affecting very young teenage people, boys basically, and they're becoming victims, and it's going to affect their future and what choices they make. And it's we just have to speak basically why this is allowed in media, why we have to question it and don't allow this horrible agenda basically in mainstream media to destroy us and to divide us and to affect the future of younger people, of younger generation. The world, as far as I know, is run by people that don't have our highest good is not in there, basically, is in the benefits. So they're going to do everything to divide us and to make all of these horrible things happen. And us as humanity, we can only fight it, we can only win if we really don't allow ourselves to believe that this is actually true, and we speak up, but obviously everything is controlled. So I think doing shows like this is very important, and hopefully a lot of people will watch it and they realize that the world, the way it is the world is kind of broken, basically, because some people that have a lot of power, they want it broken. They want to divide us, and that's the only reason this is happening. So yeah, I think I'm going around in circles, but I don't know what are your thoughts, Nomza? What do you think?
Before I just want to make something very clear. I wasn't, to Nadia and everybody who's watching, I wasn't making an excuse to those that behave that way. I'm looking at it from a very academic and learning perspective for us as coaches and people to try and see that conditioning and that upbringing, right? And that perspective, in my opinion at least, is very important. Now, there's something that you mentioned about people that have experienced racism, that they don't hate, that they don't express it in a bad behavior. I'm going to agree and disagree on that perspective, right? Like I said, I experienced it the first time when I'm like in my 30s, in the beginning of my 30s, when I moved to Norway. And it's a very different type of race. It's discrimination against most foreigners, right? I'm a person, not bragging, but I came to Norway working for very big multinationals. My CV was very nice, 4 perfect languages, and I still couldn't find a job as a waiter. Only because I didn't speak their language. And afterwards, I understood that names are being filed. If you have a foreign name, it is being filed at the bottom of the pack. If you don't speak Norwegian, you're at the bottom, even though Norwegians and the Norwegian government say that, oh, we're all inclusive, we get all the asylum seekers and they get them. But what do they do to the asylum seekers? Most of them are sent to remote areas in Norway that are void of population. How is that a life for these people? Right? That is not helping the asylum seekers. That's putting them in brackets again. That's putting them in their little field, to say the least, right? So that they stay there. We don't want them. Funny enough, there's a saying that goes around. Of course, I'm generalizing here, but not all of Norwegians are like that. But there's a saying here. They go, "Oh, he's a damn foreigner. That's why." And everybody utters it. Now, I say it just out of fun when I'm speaking to Norwegians, to just sarcastically say, "Oh, how should I know? I'm a bloody foreigner." And they laugh about it. But I'm being sarcastic from it, right? That perspective of having that, I'm not angry at them, but I'm telling you that feeling that I've had for the past 7 years or 8 or 9, I've lived here 9 years. I've had a grudge against them. I've held inside of me that, not anger, but like, how can you be so stupid? How can you be so ignorant as to do that to people that want to help you evolve into being better people, but they don't accept it, right? They have like an unwritten rule that they call here the janteloven. One of the rules is, do not think that you are better than us. Do not think that you can teach us anything. Do not think that you know more than us, right? So it is indoctrinated in them. how do you think that makes me feel coming from, excuse my language again, well, actually don't excuse, coming from societies that are far richer and older than the Norwegian society? I come from lands where history started, and their history started 100 years ago, and they think that they are better, right? That's, again, oppression, separation, discrimination. So it stays within you. It stays within you. It bothers you. Whether you deal with it or not, it still bothers you. But I'll let Namsa speak, because I could go on forever.
But can I just quickly say, but that is where it is this arrogance of that you have the power. It's the arrogance that you are better, that you are something more than that's below you. And that is really the key to what's really going on. And you know, if we had won, guess what? You know, these street footballers would have been the greatest thing out, but it should never have mattered who won and who was there. It should never have been an issue in the first place. But the thing is, it's given us the opportunity now to look below the surface and to see that it's still broken. It's still broken. And we have to look and see deeper and look at what is at the structure, at the heart of what is causing this. And it is about people believing that they are better than. And so that really puts us in. I just saw something that Charles wrote here, which was, I ask people, what's the worst race? After a strange look and stammering, I take them off the hook and answer for them, the human race. And it's such a really interesting thing. That was what I was laughing at. But, you know, we are also the best race if we are able to turn around and look as a united race, as a race that doesn't see difference, but that sees that each and every one of us are that unique creation of God. If we can do that and see and recognize oneness, then we will be the magnificent human race. But right now, yeah, he's quite right. We are the worst race because we are making race our division. So let's go about the race to make unification.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Shireen and Kamal. For me, I don't know where I stand with this racism. Before, I would blame racism people, but I went to experience it 2015 when I was pregnant with my daughter. I went to the hospital basically with the consultant, and she did everything, my normal checkups and everything. The woman, she's English. I see her every day, all the time when I go, but because as a consultant, go and check up. When I went to my checkup, I'm like 8 months pregnant. The woman went bonkers with me because the nurses, the hospital, the GP, they did the blood test and they didn't record everything how she wanted them. Honestly, she went bonkers, the woman. I cried in front of her, hoping that she would stop. Then in the end, I took my mobile phone out. I just had pleasure. I took all the evidence. I thought she would stop. I was in tears, and the door was open, the door, and people were like standing outside. They're like, what is she doing? But then in the end, I went, because the incident got reported. So when the process was going on, I realized that actually this woman, she's losing her license. I'm going to strip her license. And then I had to look back. I was like, everyone has been behaving really strange. What is going on? So when I said to the hospital, I need to think about this. And then I went to the midwife and she asked me, what do I decide to do? I was like, something is not right here. Why would this woman, she's did her training for 7 years. And then I walk in, she's been seeing me. Then I walk in and she goes bonkers. She was completely bonkers. And she knows in the UK, pregnant women come fast. When you're pregnant, basically she was losing her license. I had all the evidence. So I was like, something is not right. So I said to the midwife, can you please refer me to Oxford Hospital? I give birth, and then I'll think about this, what I need to do with her and the board, whatever they want to decide. So then when I refused to actually strip her license to go against her, I was like, something does not make sense. Inside of me, I was like, I had this feeling that something didn't make any sense, because it wasn't just her, but for me, basically, I was going to say it's racism. But when I refused, I was at home, and the voice came, and it was like, I have tried everything with you, Nomsa, and you are refusing to do what I want you to do. Now I'm appearing, and I'm going to show you who I am. I was like, what now? And what am I hearing? And this thing, I would have stripped that doctor. And even today, I was like, if I didn't know, I would have stripped her. And because I didn't know, I picked up the phone, I called my pastor, and I was like, somebody's speaking, I don't know who that is. Could you come here now? My pastor came to the house, and I was like, yes, he's here. Lucifer, and the police were called, the media were called, but when all these people were called at the time, I didn't know his plan. What was the plan? Because he was speaking through me. I thought he was crazy. Basically, I was hacked. I could see that I wasn't on earth, but I was somewhere. I wasn't crazy. He made sure that I wasn't crazy. I believed that I wasn't crazy. But then I was like, and then he spoke about coronavirus, what he was going to do. That was 2016 now. And everyone thought I was crazy. The case went over and over. But when I was realizing, when I was going through over the case, everyone thinking I'm crazy, the social services getting involved, thinking she's crazy. But then everyone was coming, because I'm Black. When they approached me as a refugee. And I was like, who told you I'm a refugee? I came here not as a refugee. I have a British passport, but I didn't come here. Why are you all assuming this? And in the end, I got the solicitor and I kicked everyone out. But then they got the psychiatric doctor that wanted to declare me bonkers, crazy, and going to be section. And this psychiatric, he went, I am not section Nomsa. This girl knows exactly what she's talking about. I'm not doing that. And then they asked my pastor, and my pastor said, yes, I can feel it. She is connected, but she needs to be disconnected, because the more this thing takes longer, he's going to take over. So then I was disconnected. I had to go to South Africa, got disconnected. I don't know how I got there. I don't know. But then after that, I don't believe in racism, because he entered when England was playing. He entered. I felt him. He entered. And when he enters, England, because he is a god, England, the legs are being controlled. If you look at England, they were not running the last game. They were not running. They were tired. It's basically he controls them. When you kick the ball, he takes control. And the ball goes where he wanted to go. So that's why I was saying to come out the other day, it's not about, for me, I don't believe that is racism. There's so much attack in the world. I think people need to actually pray. United Kingdom, there's so much abortion that the Queen has the churches. So much abortion, they're siding with the abortion. There's so much going on. The world is messed up. So for me, I don't believe, since then I stopped believing in the racism, because I saw that woman, how crazy she went. He speaks through people. So people speaks the words that he wants them to speak. So I was like, I am going to believe that the racism, I stopped believing that, because I was like, I thought I knew. My prayer was, I was fasting for 40 days. My prayer was, God, let me hear you speak. So because I opened the door for God, and he entered trying to stop me. But then I got through it. I got through him, and then God. But then that was the time, that's when I realized that actually, that's why Tony Robbins, they are who they are. They talk about good energy, but they don't talk about the bad energy. So that's why since then, I will never believe that somebody, I don't know if I'll go back to my beliefs that people actually, because I saw that woman, I thought she was being racist to me. I believed it in my heart, but then something said, no, sir, something is not right here. Why would this woman, she was towards me, she was really, really bad. And I was like, I need to look at this through. But then when I started searching, saying, please, I need this sign. What is going on? Why would this woman wanting to send me to labor? He spoke. He was like, I'm here. I've been trying. You are trying to get through, to leave every pain behind, your sins, but you're not going to go through before me. So that's when he spoke. So then I was speaking through him. He spoke about coronavirus. He spoke about what he wanted. But I was declared as crazy. And I said to them, you leave me alone. I'm not going to tell anybody. I'm just going to be silent. Because where I live is a rich place with the celebrities and everything. And I'm a Black African person. But I was like, I ain't telling anybody, just leave me alone. So that's how these people, but after they left, when I started going through things, I realized actually he was putting the police, the social services, the churches, he was telling them that is bringing war on earth. That was the message that he was telling them, but they focused on me because I'm Black, and he knew exactly what he was doing. And that time, and George, if you look at the similar things with George Floyd, everything, he uses Black people as puppies. So for me, I don't believe that white people are actually, I believed it before, but now I've got second thoughts. Because the Black people, if you see these boys, they are Black. They missed the penalty. So what? Get over it. But there was something else. And I felt him when he entered. When he entered, I was like, oh my God. I didn't think that English. But then he's a recruiter. He recruits people to make them win. So maybe Italian, one of the boys joined him, or it could be easily not a football player. It could be somebody who's joined him. That's why he entered. I don't know. Or it could be he just wanted to send a message to England, to the Queen, and say, hey, I'm available. You are busy, because now they're in court with abortion. You are busy supporting abortion. So I'm here. And also with the coronavirus, the death of coronavirus, the machines are being taken out while people are breathing. And that is a sin. So that is a spiritual attack around the world. That's how I see it. Over to you all.
Yeah, I just want to add that, Nomza, I agree that there's something more behind this all racism and division. Of course, there is something more behind it. And, I don't think it's because we are conditioned to be, I don't know, supreme, whatever, better. It's like, I can compare it to, like, it's kind of indoctrination. Like, if you talk, I used to work in counterterrorism for many years, and obviously young people are lost, basically, that they need recognition. They're being brainwashed into becoming terrorists. These people are not naturally born to be terrorists and bad people. They are being brainwashed to be that way, to turn against other people, other nations, other races, other religions. And the same thing is happening with young people, generations, basically. They turn people against each, basically, and people believe that, and they behave this way. And naturally, we are not like this. This is just manipulation and indoctrination to believe in some kind of idea and the people, so we can divide from each other. But obviously, if we do that inner work, if we know who we are deep inside, we are not going to see ourselves or other people through this lens of colors and races and genders and status, whatever. We're just gonna know who we are, and that's the only thing that's gonna matter to us, and nothing else will affect us. So yet, to me, Lomza, what you said, yes, it's true. There's something behind that, and only people that they don't know themselves, they're disconnected from themselves, believe this evil, horrible agenda, and they hurt other people. And these people, obviously, because it's so strong, it's so big. Eventually people believe that race is in Israel. But deep inside, in pure nature, we are all the same. We're just human beings. That's it. And we are just being manipulated. That's my opinion. Shireen.
No, I don't disagree with that completely. And I think that, you know, from the moment we're born, we're in separation. And our journey is to go back into wholeness. That's our journey. When we're in the uterus, we actually don't have visual. That's the only sense we don't have, believe it or not. We develop visual sense once we're out of the uterus. Okay, so for a whole 9 months, no, 3 months later, after you think, is when you start to see separation, when you start to actually see full shapes and sizes. That's evidence. So the thing that happens is when you're in uterus, you are literally always in the state of union with God, because you know no lack. You know no lack, so you're essentially in that fetus state with God. I like to say it like that, but that's what I believe. And so therefore, when we separate, we feel the first pain. We feel the first disconnection. Now, as we start to differentiate, you know, in order for us to see different things, we have to see division. We have to see the space between. We have to be able to know shapes and colors. We are programmed to do that. So what will happen is we will start to be programmed according to what's going on around us, because it's easier to be able to, energy sparing, you know, our brain requires a lot of energy. Energy sparing is requiring for conditioning, because if we are conditioned, it's easier than having to think to change the paradigm. Now, when you're little, you grow, and literally up to about the age of 7, essentially, you have that direct connection with spirit. Yeah. After that, you're already moving, your brain is already shifting into a different stage where you are connecting more with where you want to start moving. But children don't see color. They really don't see color very much. It's later on they start to see color because they're being conditioned. So there is that. But they know that someone is a different color. They know, but that doesn't bother them, because for them, there's no real background that comes with it. So they see the difference, but they don't see the difference as a sense of meaning. But later on, as conditioning happens, they start to make meaning. And actually, sameness means safety, and difference from a survival strategy means a threat. And that's where things start to go really chaotic. And if we can't, at that stage of young kids, where parents, where teachers, where society isn't able to start with children at that stage, teaching them, really teaching them to start to begin to learn techniques that actually promote the brain in a way that allows for compassion, allows for empathy, allows for seeing greatness in each other. These are skills that happen. But with flipping around on our little phones and things like that, we're actually losing the ability to concentrate. And that's a real problem, because that makes us more into the reaction than into the actual ability to be able to be at one with. So yeah, my opinion is that all of these things are there, and they're all part of our learning. And that's why I think this is, you know, we say there's an ism. All it means is separation. All it means essentially is separation. And our job is to come back into connection. Our job is to come back into that wholeness. So if we are creating things that are unhelpful for us, then everything is going to land in those places. And I don't believe that young children will be radicalized if they weren't unhappy in the first place. If they had been taught in a way of loving family, truly loving family, they won't go and look elsewhere. If they have a really rich community, they won't go elsewhere. We already know that if you give mice that are totally addicted to cocaine and nutritive surrounding, they don't miss it. They actually cease the addiction like that. So I do think that people in the world that want to control the world, yes, I agree with you, Nadia, there are people that do want that. And I think they know how to tap into the survival aspect of people that then make them fearful and then make them choose things that are not helpful. And that's where we, as each individual, we are stronger than, as a collective, we are strong. But as individuals, we are not. And we need to work together as a collective, right at that very grassroots. As mothers, as we should be helping every family right at that very beginning, teaching them the difference, how they'll respond differently to their boys and their girls, and being aware of all of that. And that's when we'll change the world. We won't change the world before that.
I like
They've
that.
got to grow up with that.
I love that. That's very, it's beautifully said. And if you allow me, I'd like, because we're coming to an end, I'd like to complement it with two last things, like I always do with Proverbs usually. The first thing is the last known public speech of Prophet Muhammad from Islam, right? He said this: there is no superiority of an Arab over a non-Arab, or of a non-Arab over an Arab, and no superiority of a white person over a black person, or of a black person over a white person, except on the basis of personal piety and righteousness. Now, to complement that last bit, it is said based on a verse in the Quran as well. I can't remember the verse number, but in the Quran it says, "O humankind, we have made you into nations and tribes so that you may get to know one another. The noblest of you in God's sight is the one who is most righteous." The idea behind these two parts is exactly what you were talking about, Shireen, is getting people together, being that oneness again. As we were in birth, we get out, we separate from that oneness, whether it's with God, religiously, spiritually, or the universe. That oneness gets out. And the idea for us, as you were saying, what I would love everybody else to feel and learn, is to get back into that oneness, being understanding, being compassionate, showing empathy, and learning and teaching young children about that. I never understood racism, even though it was around me, until my mid-20s, because I didn't have that sense around me. We were all the same. I went and sat with my African friends, I sat with my Asian friends, I sat with Egyptians, with French, with Portuguese, with Spanish. I had friends from all over, but it was never an issue for me. For me, we were all there having fun, enjoying our time, being together. Whether it was for the love of each other, whether it was for the love of playing with each other, the love of families even. But that's what allowed us, me, when I'm talking us, I'm talking me, my friends and I, and the families, to be in that oneness community that you were talking about, Cherie. And I am so very grateful. And until today, I still have friends that come into my life and that allow me to be in that oneness with them. So that's what I would love for others to live by, and try to not try and do, actually, to understand and live by this oneness, get back to being together instead of that separation that we are conditioned into. And those will be my words for today. Thank you.
Words of encouragement, Nadia, before we go?
Yes, of course, and I'm glad that we have different opinions, and I just want to add that it all starts from individual. We are here to experience individual experience. We are here for a reason, to learn our own individual lessons. So it all starts with you, whatever your heart and you are connected to. we will only be able to connect to others first if we connect it to our hearts and what it truly wants, and nothing else really matters. So I think the power is in the individual more than in the collective, because that's the root, that's where it starts, from you. So thank you.
Thank you, Stella and Charles. Shireen, words of encouragement, please.
Yeah, I think the most important thing is just remember each and every one of you are magnificent, and look always to find the magnificence in each other. And everybody has a lesson for you to learn. And if you feel any kind of dissonance, that's the lesson for you to grow. So use that. And as Nadia says, we're here for our individualized experience. But the individualized experiences, we are not born alone. We are born into something so that we all can become something together. And the power of that, you know, many of our you know, we have the mitochondria, which are bacteria that came into our body to become part of our body. So we are a collection of thousands. We are half more bacteria than we are us as humans. So, and they're working for us. So let's kind of look at that and see it as the paradigm that we would love to have for the world. That we can work together and be together.
Thank you so much. Kamau, are you done? So for me, basically, I would say be proud of who you are. If you ever watched, I don't know if anyone has watched Lucifer and his brother Manadin. They are all like brothers, the angels, and they love each other. Manadin is black and Lucifer is white. And they love each other. Amazing. You know, when you see the love that they have for each other, they have each other's back. So whether we are black, whether you're white, we still all children of God. We're still created by one creator. We are all amazing people. Maybe if we even share our ancestors and we don't know. So basically what I would say is be proud of who you are. And I have to say this, guys. There's a guy in church. He actually shocked me. He goes, Nomsa, I have something for you. Can you please contact this person? She's singing with the BBC choir, and I think she does the harmonies, but I think you do better than her. She hasn't got it in her blood. So I was like, what do you mean she hasn't got in her blood? He goes, black people can sing, man. They're talented. Even to me, it hurts to admit. I was like, oh, thank you so much. So when you work with a black person, you work with a white person, your brothers and sisters, we are all on earth to serve, to love each other. So it doesn't matter what color you are, but unfortunately, the world is different. So it's a battlefield. So thank you so much to everyone who has been watching today. And we are here at Ngozi Talk Shows Monday to Friday, 1 p.m. UK time. If you're watching this later or 2 years later or a year later, please press a heart button and share the talk with your loved ones. And God bless you. Live with grace. It doesn't matter what you've been through with racism. Know that if I didn't make you, I cannot define you. Your creator can define you. That's what I leave you with. God bless you.